Now, I didn't actually throw away the ends of the radishes, but who else can relate to that scenario? I've done that many times before where you just really don't know what to do with these things, you just want to get it quick and over with, and so you just throw this away and then start chopping the radishes that you actually want to eat. So a few weeks ago I was in a similar situation where I didn't know what to do with this, and I ended up making some pesto out of it. Now, before going back in time and showing that scenario, there are 2 points that I just wanted to clarify that I was trying to make while I was busy doing that. Now, the first point pertained to that cooking, and in particular prep work, can often be quite time consuming. So you want to do whatever you can to make it easier on yourself, especially for the near future. So for example, in that moment when I was cooking dinner, I needed to use the big food processor to chop a few different vegetables for that dinner that night. But even though I didn't need the radishes for that evening specifically, I still decided just to clean and use the food processor to immediately chop these into smaller sizes, saving myself the effort of having to do all of this the following day, or to grab out the food processor again and having to give it another clean again. And then the second point was more so about, while you're prepping all your ingredients, try thinking ahead of time what you can do with certain ingredients that you're prepping that day anyways. So for example, in this case, it could be about thinking ahead of time what you can do with the greens that you just chopped off, the radishes. Or in another case, for example, if you buy those carrots that still come attached with the greens on the top of them, I think it's often very easy just to chop them off and throw them in the trash, but there are so many different things that you can do with them. They're great in soups, stocks, gravy, various different things that you can do with that. So the point being, and how to tie in with the first point, is don't just think about what you're doing for the dinner that evening, but think about greens that you have in front of you and what you can do to make it easier on yourself in the near future. So here I am a few weeks later prepping radishes for our dinner tonight. I want to just slice it into smaller pieces. I'll use a food processor for that later on. And I was just looking up what else you can do with the radish greens before just throwing them away, and I read that you can actually cook them, saute them, so I'm going to give that a try later on because I've never done that before and I want to know what it tastes like, and if it's bad then, well, at least you tried it once and you don't have to do it again. You can come up with another idea, maybe just do something easy with it, like use it in a stock or a soup. But for tonight's dinner, I think that could work quite well, so I'm just gonna give this a wash later on and then try that out. So to summarize the 2 points again, while you're prepping your dinner or lunch anyways, think about ways that you can use up all the ingredients in the most efficient manner possible. So I just used this mini food processor to quickly blitz up the radishes, but just imagine that for tomorrow I could also use some cucumber for a salad, well then I may as well now take out the cucumber, blitz it up so it's all ready for tomorrow. So those are the kind of ideas that I wanted to share, but for today I don't need any of that, so this is all I'll have to do. Alright, these two can go in the fridge, ready for tonight's dinner. And now we can go back in time. As I was cooking dinner tonight, I was just thinking about some organizational tips to save time for dinner preparations in the near future. So for today I used the food processor to cut up some carrots and tomatoes and other things, and it's a bit of a pain to clean that every time. So then you want to start thinking about meals that you were planning on making in the next few days anyways, like I want to make a salad using radishes. So now I've washed the greens off of them, and I'll put the radishes in the food processor, slice these into small pieces, and then I was thinking of making a pesto using the radish leaves, so I put them into the small container, and then I'll put this in the fridge ready to be used tomorrow because I'm not going to be making the pesto and then it's just less time doing the dishes twice. And now they're ready to be stored away, ready to be used tomorrow or whenever else I decide to use them this week. And it just means that the next time that I need some radishes, I don't have to then wash, cut, prep it, it's already done, because I use the food processor for 2 different purposes in one session. So last night as I was cooking, I tried to briefly mention a bit about kind of thinking ahead of what you want to cook and what tools you'll need for it. So for myself, I chopped up the radishes right, and I had the radish leaves left over, which I wanted to try to make some kind of pesto out of it. And so, since I knew that I wanted to make this in the near future, I actually just gave the food processor a quick rinse and then stored it in the fridge overnight. I'm gonna prep some ingredients for the pesto. I'm not trying to make a perfect pesto or something like that, just something easy that also encouraged me to use up the radish leaves rather than throwing them away. So in pesto you usually add pine nuts, but I don't have any, so I'm going to add in some walnuts. And then again, I recommend using freshly squeezed lemon juice. I don't have that, so just adding a bit of lemon zest in there. It a bit simple for now, and then later on I'll add salt, pepper, extra things to help flavor it a bit more. Definitely needs a bit of olive oil to help it all blend together. And then just gonna use the pulse button. Okay, so it's starting to grind up but not becoming a real smooth pesto consistency, so I'm gonna add a bit more olive oil, then a bit of salt. I have some lemon pepper, so I think that would be quite nice in here. And then as a final ingredient, usually I'd add Parmesan cheese into a pesto, but again, don't have that. Really was not prepared to make pesto, so I'm kind of just making do with what I have. So instead, I'm gonna add in some nutritional yeast. Put that to the side in case I need more. Too oily, so in order to help it kind of blend a bit more, I'm going to add some oat milk to it. The consistency is looking quite nice, so I think I can put this into a jar or something like that. I have pesto to be used for dinner another night. Here again, trying to put everything away properly and just finish it all up. So first up, I want to put these ice cubes away from the radish pesto. I already wrote down the label on some scrap paper. I basically just wrote down that it was radish greens pesto, 5 cubes is 1 portion, and the date that I made it, which I will stick on to the reusable bag or Ziploc bag afterwards. So first up is just about popping these out into some kind of container so they're easier to grab. Alright, first tray emptied out. Last step is basically just to add on the label. The nice thing about storing away in this method is that, well, depending on how many people I want to make this pesto for, I know how many cubes I can take out, and that will equate to the amount of portions. So for example, if it's just for myself, I'll take out 5. So now I'm going to put this back into the freezer. Hello again. So here I am in the kitchen, and I wanted to slip in an example of using the dinner prep work that I did a few weeks earlier to make this video a bit more full circle. So in the beginning, it was a bit about you're prepping for one dinner, but perhaps you can already start prepping or working ahead for another dinner. So back then I needed some radish, but I didn't want the radish leaves to go to waste, so I made some pesto out of it. And now here I am, ready to use that for dinner tonight. So ergo, I have my apron on. And earlier today, I already did a bit of the prep work. So I have some chopped mushrooms and carrots, some chopped tomatoes, and some chopped red onions and garlic in here. So in a bit, I'm going to fry these up, and then this I can just simply microwave. Or I could have taken it out earlier in the day, but I forgot to. I just grabbed a bowl and a plate, and I'm just going to pop this in the microwave. Oh yeah, I added 5 cubes equals 1 portion, so since I'm cooking for 2 tonight, I'll take out 10. Chopping the vegetables earlier just makes cooking so much more of a pleasant task to do because you already did a lot of the prep work in advance. So I'll continue cooking this, I'll cook the pasta a bit later, mix it all together, and then that's another simple dinner done. I didn't have to prep the sauce today, which was really nice because I wasn't so in the mood to do that. So having something like this is extremely handy for those days where you don't really feel like doing all the work, but you want to eat something that evening that feels a bit more like a homemade meal. So that's why I love having things like this in the freezer for days like these. The sauce is nice and melted, and all I have to do is just add it to the pasta in the end.
Increasing the percentage of paint to paint thinner. So in relative range of how thick or thin you can make the paint. And I feel alright, now for the last block, I'm going to be using just as I can. Thicker than the previous layer, it's now slide all layered on top of each other. Now there is one more level of thickness that you could go on.
Go back further. There you go. Now it's all in frame.
You're making me laugh. One dinner prepped.
Cut!
Alright, second plate is done. That was a very easy dinner to make, and again, nice to have on evenings like this.